Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another Harkness Roundtable on Harkness Screens TV. I'm Joe Harvey. I'm going to kind of be mediating this rabble we've got with us today. They've all joined us from across the country in the United Kingdom. We're joined by Mark Ashcroft, Laurent Espitalier, Matt Jahans, Richard Mitchell, and Tony Dilley. Gentlemen, how are you all?
Well, thanks, Joe.
Good, thanks, Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Oh, good stuff. Love to see you all. It's been a little while. I think the last time we spoke, we weren't exactly sure when cinemas would be completely reopening. I think mostly they have now. I went to see Tenet the other week. It was a great experience, really good film. And I think it's probably one of those films that I'd only ever really want to watch on the big screen. And that is also the topic of the day. You know, it's been a long time and you've all been doing so much work to get people back into cinemas. You know, Tony's been the man in regular contact with customers across the world. Mark Ashcroft and Laurent Espitalier have been working hard in the background to try and work out different ways to help people get back into the cinemas. And then obviously Richard Mitchell and Matt Jahans internally have been developing technologies to aid the people in this new world we find ourselves in. So, Tony, obviously we've spoken to you previously. What have been the main concerns about cinema exhibitors leading into the reopening, and how have they found it thus far?
I think it's just been the scheduling of when they wanted to reopen it, because of the studios dropping films from their schedule, just moving them out or taking them completely away. And of course, that's what cinemas rely on. Cinemas rely on these tentpole movies. If they don't get them, they don't get the audiences. Now they're reopening. There does seem to be a bit of life in the market. It might be 30 or 40% occupancy, but if they can do that 7 days a week, then that probably adds up to pretty close to what they were doing in a week anyway, because the hours are going to be shorter. The cinema opening hours are going to be shorter. I think the biggest problem at the moment is there's no big releases scheduled over the next 3-4 months through to Christmas, if you see what I mean. Initially, we had a problem where they all wanted to finish off the projects that they had going, new builds, refurbishments, etc., but they couldn't get the builders on site. And they could get the builders on site. There was no hotels open for the builders to stay in. So it was just a vicious circle all the time. But it's calming down now. It's definitely calming down now. From my point of view, with my territories, my biggest problem at the moment is Latin America, because that's only just started opening, mainly Mexico, but the rest of it is generally closed. So it's just slow revolutions of the wheel, but we'll get there.
And which screen do we normally use if we do the premiere?
In there, it's normally a Perlux 140 for 2D films. That's their screen of choice in there. So yeah, because it's a flat screen, they can't curve it, and a 140's got, it's pretty even, particularly the new high white material. So yeah, the 140.
And Mark or Matt, whoever really wants this one, was there a lot of interest leading into the reopening of getting new products in there to try and kind of enhance that experience more after so many months without cinema?
Yeah, I think when you sort of try and imagine or put yourself in the shoes of a cinema goer, as most of us are anyway, I think I look at it on a personal level as that people have been locked down, they've been at home, they've missed that shared experience, they've got used just to watching a TV set in their lounge. So I think to actually then go and watch a movie on a proper big screen as a movie is meant to be, supposed to be watched, I think that's what people have been looking for. So yes, so people are reaching out, and I think for cinemas to try and do well in this sort of period, to me, they've got to be on their A game, and that's what people are talking to us about. So when people are trying to come back from video on demand to move into cinema, cinemas need to be putting on their best. They've got to be putting on their A game. We've got to have the best screen technology, the best projection technology. Everything's got to be done perfect, because that's going to make people think, wow, that's what we've been missing. And a classic example myself, I went in to see Tenet, as like yourself said, it was the first movie I'd seen in months. Watched it on a nice Harkness screen. It was good high gain, good brightness levels, good picture size. And to be honest, it was fascinating. And you did never, it was just amazing. You would never get that in your lounge, no matter what surround system, whatever you've got. And I think that's the sort of experience you can't beat. So yeah, from a personal point of view, it's been great talking to customers and encouraging them, helping them, consulting to try and put that in place to get people returning.
And I think, Joe, we've seen over the 6 months, we've seen our ultra high gain screen in big demand. It's new technology, and despite the crisis, we've been able to deploy that screen and had some really, really strong feedback. Across our portfolio, Perlux, as Tony mentions, is a screen of choice, and the sales of Perlux during this last 6 months have been the strongest as an overall percentage of our portfolio than we've ever seen. In fact, we were looking at the numbers, Matt and I, just recently, and as a percentage of overall portfolio, Perlux High Wide is up 34 percentage points. And, it just builds on the fact that screen technology that we've developed over the last 12 months to enhance Perlux in terms of brightness, in terms of uniformity, is now so well received by cinemas. And I know Laurent is working behind the scenes on further development. So I'll let Laurent talk to you about those, Joe.
Oh yeah, we've been able to focus recently on new technology, and what was good, we had a time to consider. So the substrate, the interface, and the new surface treatment we're putting on top. So we had some promising results in the UK in terms of foldability of the new silver screen. And we're now in the stage where we're trying to transfer the technology to other sites. There's lots to learn, but this is making progress really quickly. And because we had this time where everything else slowed down, we managed to focus really on this and put lots of science into it. And we started getting quite excited about what we should be able to offer pretty soon. And there's still some work to do, but we're reaching all the milestones at the moment. So I'm sure if one day there's a specific interest in science, we can organize a special TV and science and all of that to explain to people what we're doing. But it's been some exciting few months if you're into science and the molecule side of it, and how we look at diffusion barrier and migration. And one of the things we've been particularly focused on is how the screen's ages actually. What we didn't want to do right now is just trying to launch too quickly something that might be a bit of a flop in a few months' time. So we are working properly, and it's really good to see progress being made at the moment. So hopefully we'll have a new catch-up very soon.
No, definitely. And obviously, Richard, one of the things as well is that you released a white paper during lockdown discussing how Harkness technologies could be used to kind of help people with that flow in and out of cinemas. And obviously that's something you do quite a lot for Harkness. Is that how do you feel that the technologies that Harkness have could aid people with, being able to open safely and kind of COVID safely as well, more importantly?
Yeah, Joe, I think that the fundamental operations of exhibition have changed dramatically, potentially forever. There are some short and long-term implications for exhibitors. If we look at the way that they've had to create COVID-safe spaces, that's been quite transformational. We're now, at the end of September, and thus far around the world, there's been no reported transmission of coronavirus from one person to another inside of a cinema. So our partners and customers in exhibition have done a phenomenal job. One of the very few, if the only, leisure sector that's managed to be completely COVID secure. So our customers should take great praise for that. But their operations have changed dramatically. Some of the things that they had looked at or were looking at from that big screen experience that we started off talking about, those decisions have changed potentially for the next 5, 10, 20 years. This last 6 months has had that profound effect. Those laser upgrades may well not now happen, so it's about preserving some of that early digital cinema equipment that's been in for up to 10 to 15 years now. It's about then those choices of laser projection and what those mean and when they're staged. And even down the road to LED screens, has that technology been pushed off into the future? So for us now, the discussion is about how we take our existing technology and support our exhibition sector customers into driving the outcomes that give that big screen experience, not just for now, but for the next 10 to 20 years.
Mark, obviously you're in conversation with customers as well quite regularly. Do they feel kind of positive about the outlook of what their industry is doing at the minute?
I think the issue that Richard and Tony have outlined is top of the mind. What releases are there going to be? And are they going to be a frequency that allows the cinemas to profitably stay open, whether it's reduced hours 7 days a week, whether it's normal hours 5 days a week? What is that future operating model going to look like? Because that drives their profitability. It must be very difficult if you sat in the United States currently. So you've had Tenet released at the start of September, and potentially your next release is middle of November. That's a sort of best will in the world is a 9-week lag. What do you do for those 9 weeks? I mean, that's tough, and that I believe is acknowledged, not necessarily as publicly as we're doing on a podcast, video cast like we're doing today, but I do sense that from a number of our customers. And then to Richard's point, safely reopening is really a new game for us. What does that mean? We've seen some exhibitors put in barrier screens. You go into some exhibitors, they wear face masks. Others wear face mask and face shield. Some haven't opened the popcorn concession. Others have. Some allow you to take the mask off while you're eating the popcorn. Is that good for popcorn sales? I'm not sure. So there is that change in the economic model for the exhibitors, and I believe that's what they're most nervous about. And certainly with Tony's experience in the industry, we see customers reaching out on a very regular basis, talking to Tony about not just new projects, but about refurbishments, replacements, and reopening. Because with reopening, I think Matt's probably and Tony are best placed to talk, but with reopening after 6 months of no activity, there's a significant element of risk, whether it's will the projector work the same way it did, how's the sound system, how's the screen. There are elements of risk in that reopening that need to be managed. I don't know, Tony, what you've been seeing on those reopenings.
We've had a few leaky rooms with water stains down the screens and things like that. Some mould where people have not looked after their air conditioning system. The air conditioning system's turned off, and the mould that's in the system gets onto the screen. That's the worst problems so far. No real big disasters. They're the worst problems.
Matt, are you getting asked for advice on any specific items?
Yeah, similar to what Tony said. I mean, our screens are quite robust, obviously, but the screens, or let's say the auditorium as a whole, has never been subjected to this before, such downtime. And I think key considerations like things like HVAC off, can have effects on screens sometimes with regard to tension. You could get sagging if it's, it's changed in a temperature condition. But I think with anything in an auditorium, be that the screen, be that the projector in the projector room, the seats, what have you, the main thing is people need to treat this as a new scenario. It's all down to inspection. So you don't just open the doors. What are you going to do? Are you going to use, from a safety point of view, if everything's fine, you're going to use barriers like you talked about, Mark. We hear people talking about things like fumigating, but again, it's inspection, it's testing, it's evaluation. Use that example. You don't suddenly go and fumigate your whole estate and then wonder whether the chemicals are safe. So it's all about dialogue and talking. And certainly when it comes to our products, we can advise what works best with our screen surfaces, what to do if you see something unusual. So I would say to anyone listening to the podcast, talk to us. You always do. We have a good relationship with our customers, but I think that's it. Talk to us, ask the questions, check things, and talk about things that may or may not look unusual. But we're there to help, and a lot of other partners are as well. So
no, definitely. Please do keep to Matt's messaging there. That's kind of all for this kind of Harkness Screens video podcast video that we're doing today. Thank you very much for watching or listening, and I'm sure we'll see you again.